Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Last Guardian walkthrough, and as you saw just then, the transition between this and the previous video, I've trimmed out a whole host of waiting for Trico to turn up and save us, and now we can continue on with the journey. Journey, said really weirdly for some reason. Journey, I don't know why I said that. Weird. Anyway, what's going to happen here is we're going to need Trico to push us up this little ledge. Hopefully that'll happen sooner rather than later, and then it'll be this whole host of moving around and doing things that you do in this video game. So I'm going to talk about other things, guys. Once again, if it's not to your taste, there are plenty of other videos of The Last Guardian on the internet where there are no talking in them. I have one. It's one continuous video of this game. It's about 5.5 hours long. You can watch it right now and it doesn't have any of this talking nonsense on it. But if you're interested in the nonsense, then sit back and enjoy and get a beverage, because we're going to be going deep again into the world of irreverence. Irreverent comedy, which is what I said in the last video, which is quite funny. Which brings us to DSP. Should we talk some DSP? People love the DSP talk, right? No. You hate it. You should hate it because it's despicable. But, you know, maybe you don't. Maybe you like it. This dude is amazing. It's so interesting to watch. Such a psychopath at work. It really is. Somebody who has almost no soul, parading as a soul, doing soulless things. Wonderful, wonderful speculum. Speculum? That's probably suitable for him, but I meant to say so. Spectacle, not speculum, of course. Speculum works better because of Darkside Phil, because it kind of opens up what he is. But this is a dude, right? It's almost difficult to say it, it's so stupid. Like, oh my goodness. This is a person whose first comeback to people is to get a life. That's what he says to people, tells people to get lives. Like, you can find a life like it's a fucking mushroom in Mario. Like, tells people to get a life, yeah? And that's his go-to comeback for a lot of his detractors, which is just a fancy way of saying people who speak the truth and he refuses to listen. The people who don't really like him. There are some that do it for a laugh, there are some that do it for a purpose, there are some that are just like trying to point out his hypocrisies and hopefully make him better. This motherfucker, he tells him to go get a life. A guy who wakes up, plays video games, 4 hours, goes to bed, wakes up, plays video games for 4 hours, and I say 4 hours, it's oftentimes 3 and less, and he has breaks, and that's all he does, all he fucking does. And then he tells you, all the other time when he's not doing that, of how difficult it is to play video games for barely 4 hours, and doing all the editing and rendering, like rendering takes physical stimuli to do, like it somehow taxes him in some way. You realise when you render something, it's the processor in your machine that does the work, Phil, not you. You're not sat there knitting some kind of software together. You're not sat there flipping switches. You are not some kind of architect of your rendering hardware. It is your CPU doing all the work and you're watching a fucking bar go up. Yeah, this dude makes out like he's building houses. I don't know why. Very strange. But his number one retort is to get a life. And this person has no friends. Has no friends. Does nothing. Because everything he does, he shares on the internet. So if you want to see at any given moment what this motherfucker's achieved in a day, you can go on the internet and see, because nothing is sacred. Everything is shared. Watches a bit of TV, eats a bit of food, sees something at random store, plays more video games, insults somebody who says that he's shit. Like, that's it. That's all the motherfucker does. And yet his first retort is get a life. I always find that interesting, you know, get a life when your life is so empty. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. That's just one of those funny, you know, parts of being Phil, I guess. Now, this is a man, right, who is streaming on Christmas Eve and streaming on Christmas Day. And don't get me wrong, the guy doesn't stream for very long. It's like he's incapable of because of his magical back injury, which turns up randomly like the crow from Darksiders to be an excuse. And streaming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day is one of those things, like, I am under no illusion that it can be a business decision. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are pretty special days for some people, not everybody, and they can be incredibly lucrative. As I lure this guy away so I can go and solve this puzzle. They can be really lucrative. Look at when Maximilian streams on his birthday and he gets all those extra donations. It can be kind of an underhanded, but very, lucrative business. And I'm under no illusion that Christmas Eve and Christmas Day might be the same, because these are the holidays, aren't they? Technically, some of them have got religious reasons, if you believe that stuff. Some of them are just an excuse to get close to your family and everything. But for the most, who the fuck's watching streams on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day? I just want to know, because I know I'm not, and I watch streams all the time. I'm a stream watcher, because when there's nothing to put on for background noise when I'm doing something, I'll throw Twitch on and put something up. A lot of the times it's good old Darkside Phil. Not because I like him or I support him. I've got that ad block firmly set. It's just because it's fucking background noise and I know he's going to be a twat at some point and I get to laugh at him. But it's noise, it's something in the background. I've gone through almost all the TV shows, I watch movies, I do 1,000,001 things, and there are moments where you don't have anything to distract yourself with, and I can't use music because music is at its best when it's loud, and then I can't do things like editing or I can't pay attention to what I'm doing on the game. So music can only work in certain situations, in my opinion. So I like to have just something in the background that I can ignore, but if it gets interesting, I can be like, oh, that's cool, and it keeps me motivated and takes my view off of what I'm doing. So if it's something boring, I don't know it's boring because I'm too busy listening to Big Benedict beat God of War or something. It's a good thing to do. That's why I think YouTube and Twitch are so good, because they enable distraction. And I think distraction can be wonderful when you're having one of those days where you need it. And Darkside Phil is the king of distraction because everything he's ever fucking done is irrelevant. And he thinks he's somehow a god. It's wonderful. But he's streaming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, which means A, they didn't have any better plans, which is really, really sad, because even I have fucking plans on those days, regardless of if I want them or not, because it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. You do stuff on those days. It's just how the world works. Humans said we do stuff, so we fucking do stuff. But Phil don't. So Phil's going to be streaming. And it's just... And then he's insulting other people for not having lives. Yeah, he's going to be streaming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And it's just like, dude, go out and get drunk. I know you get drunk every other fucking night to drown your sorrows, but do it with other human beings. Maybe you'll meet a friend. Maybe you'll cheer up. Maybe you'll realise your content's shit and it needs improving. I don't know. And then Christmas Day, you don't have to believe in Jesus. Christmas Day is still a breeze place. You get to eat really nice food. You get to open presents and spend it with, family and all that good stuff. And then go back to the pub and get drunk again if that's your thing. But this motherfucker wants a stream? Who's watching streams on Christmas Day? Not even fucking Jesus is watching streams on Christmas Day, and he's really nice. I just don't understand what market that's for. And there will be people that do, because, there's always somebody who does things different. One of the traditions I used to do on Christmas Day is Aiden would generally get one of those scenic games, those movie quizzes that they came out on the 360, and there was tons of them. He would get that for Christmas. I'd be invited round to his house. We'd sit in his room, we'd drink some beers, and we'd play that for 6 hours until we were either passed out or I walked home with a nice topple in my step. And that's what we would do. Just having fun with a friend, drinking some beers, enjoying the festive spirit. That's what Christmas is, If you're religious, it might involve self-flagellating and kneeling on really uncomfortable stools and shit, but whatever floats your boat. Streaming? I don't know. I suppose it's different if there's more than one of you. If he had friends and they were on the stream, that'd be great. Because then it's like a communal thing, a festive thing. But it's just him being a dick again, like he is on every stream, snorting like a fucking pig, even though all you have to do is macro a shortcut to your wireless keyboard to mute that shit. But he doesn't. So instead you just get these wonderful noises that come out of nowhere. And where is all this mucus going? Does he swallow it? How is he not dead? How does he not have chest infections? What is he doing? Ridiculous. But to get to the point I wanted to say before we went on that wonderful tangent, sorry about that noise, guys. That's the type of thing I would edit out. We all make noises. We're human beings, but we don't need to hear them. And that's the point I want to make. Somebody said to him that it's disgraceful that he leaves all that shit in, and it should be removed because it's not professional at all. So his comeback was that, nobody cares, and that Howard Stern does it, and Howard Stern is loved. And all this other stuff, and you just sit there with the delusion, thinking how the fuck does this man even eat when he's this deluded? How can he reach the space where his mouth is in this inflatable head? You're not Howard Stern, dude. You will never be Howard Stern. You will not achieve 1/10 of what Howard Stern achieved in his lifetime, because he made an impact on the world. You might not like him, but you have to agree he made some kind of change here. when you Google Howard Stern, it'll probably tell you of his, his campaign to get into radio and how he pushed boundaries and how he broke paradigms and he broke stereotypes and he brought this new wave, like fuck the police kind of attitude to radio. Like, it was very guerrilla at that time, and it's probably changed that entire medium, regardless of if you like it or not. I don't really know too much about Howard Stern other than he's got that big, massive perm, a massive nose, and he gets porn stars on his show. Like, that's all I know about him, because it's not something that I can come across as far as culture-wise, because he's American, and a lot of American culture is beside me. I don't see it. But to compare yourself to him, when people Google search you and the only thing you're known for is 40,000 videos with zero editing and masturbating in front of children, like, that is not the same kind of caliber here. You can't compare yourself to someone who has changed his field forever, to someone who is the jester of his field forever. Like, there is no point, there is no achievement, there is no amount of sheer force of will or talent in any area that Darkside Phil could possibly enable now and apply that will efface any of his history. He could beat every game from now till the end of time, taking no damage on his first attempt, using his eyelids to control the controller, and he would still be remembered for the dude who sucks at video games, the dude who makes pig noises, the dude who is like bugged brain mechanics, and the dude who jacked off on stream without realizing the camera was on, and did a poor job at that. Like, it's just, there's no way of getting away from that. So to think that you are in some way important, and to think that your importance is somehow better than other people's importance, it's just mind-boggling. Can you imagine somebody telling you something that is objectively true and objectively bad about your videos, and your retort being, I'm fucking Howard Stern, shut your mouth? Like, what? It's just that weird thing. Like, why would anybody think to say that? And then he brings out the seniority card. Seniority is something that I believe in. It stems from masters and apprentices, I think. You respect your elders. It's probably one of those morals that's built into us from children through good parenting or questionable parenting, depending on where you stand on the divide. And I do think seniority matters. I think it should matter. It should matter in every walk of life, because if you've done something for longer than somebody else, you should be better at it. Or at least more knowledgeable of it. That's kind of the way that I view the world, and I always have. And I don't think it's one of those things where you'll never get better at it, so you shouldn't try. I think it's a case of, if you put in the time, you reap the reward. That's how things work. You build the muscle memory. You build all of the skills, all of the tools needed to apply that, whatever that is. I would think I know a little bit more about video editing and about YouTube than somebody who starts doing it today, because I've done it for a large period of time. Might not have done it successfully, might not have always been good at it, but I've got to a point when I understand certain aspects of it, and I can do it a lot better than I could before. But I would still take the criticism of somebody else, just to see what it is, just to run it past and see if it's got any validity to it, because if without criticism, who are you? You're infallible. Nobody wants that, not even the Pope wants that. So for this dude to just be like, I know better because I've been on here for 8 years, that's the absence of a point. It's the absence of an argument. And he does it all the time. People insult him for his lacking video game abilities. And don't get me wrong, I think people are kind of harsh on good old Darkside Phil. I think a lot of the times, he's okay, he's fine. He's not great, but he's not bad. He gets shit done, he misses stuff, but we all miss stuff. I was playing Arkham Asylum the other day, and I missed a vent. And I was running around the area, where there's the Predator challenge and it's in the library, where you're looking for the nurse who's been, for the doctor who's been taken by Zaz, and you have to throw the boomerang at him. It's the vent that leads to there. And I was running around that area like, where the fuck do I go? I've done this game so many times, and I can't remember where to go. I've obviously missed something, but I couldn't think where it was. And I ran every conceivable place before backtracking to the area where the vent was twice, and still managing to miss the vent. And that is something that would have come to me naturally in a second, maybe the last time I played, or maybe the time before that. Bearing in mind, I have beat like 5 different versions of Arkham Asylum. I've done the Game of the Year on normal version, Game of the Year version on both the 360 and the PC. Like, I've played that game a lot, because you have to beat it twice to get all the achievements. So that's, each time you do that, it's two playthroughs. Hard playthrough, New Game Plus playthrough. Like, I've beat the game a lot. But you can have those moments where you just have a brain fart, or you don't see something, or you miss something, and you get confused for a bit, and then you figure it out and you do it, and you wonder why you got stuck. The Last Guardian is a game full of that, full of puzzles that aren't really taxing, but you can miss small components of them and be stood around for longer than you should. It's just the way that games work, and that is just the path to solving things. But people will critique Phil for being bad at things even when he's not bad, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's good, I just think that people can be really, really critical of him, and I don't agree with that, I never have. I think a lot of people are quite pedantic with it. There are many times where he's perfectly acceptable with what he does in the game, but there are other times when he's not. And the times when he's not are the times that should be celebrated and laughed at, because they are the highlights in my opinion. But people focus on all kinds of wrong stuff, and it dilutes the importance of it, and it dilutes the message of it, I think. Because he's not just a 100% absolute bad gamer, he's not. He's just an average gamer who has these moments of just sheer insanity, because instead of looking at himself for fault, he immediately looks for everything else, because it's never him. And in those moments, that is when his true genius shines, because he is like a talking lobotomy. It's just fucking brutal and wonderful and hilarious, and how can anybody be so stupid kind of moments. And those are the bits where he should be lambasted for them, because you can't blame the dev for 20 minutes and then at minute 21 realise that you didn't use a button that you should have been using to help you do it. At that point, you should be going, my bad. But Phil doesn't do that. Phil continues to say, well, the dev should have signposted it more. The dev should have told me. You know, the game should have told me, this should have... Everything should have, except for him. And it's that wonderful part. And it was the same here in The Last Guardian, if you watched his stream of it. At the beginning of this game, you're introduced to the shield mechanic. You're given this weapon that enables you to aim Trico's lightning. And you're given it for about 30 minutes and then it's taken from you. And I don't know why they did that. It's one of those really weird things. I think there could have been a lot of gameplay that they could have added to this experience, using that shield to conduct Trico in effective ways, and done a lot of cool platform and puzzles with it. But they decided not to, as we get a nice close-up of Trico's arsehole. They decided to take it off you, and I don't know if it's once again to add to the power fantasy, I don't really know the motivation behind it, but they take away your only real tool of being, you know, aggressive towards enemies and towards environments, because that's the only real way you can feasibly attack outside of climbing backs and throwing helmets. And then right towards the end of the game, you get it back. And at that point, you haven't used it for quite a long time. But when you did use it, there was only 2 buttons to remember, guys. There was hold circle to use it, and then there was press right on the D-pad to turn it off and put it on your back, to equip, unequip. Not a difficult concept. Bearing in mind, when you have it equipped, you cannot do circle commands, because he will aim the shield. So there would have to have been a mechanism to take it off to enable you to do the things you do with circle, because it's a well-frequented button that you need to use in this game. But at the end of the game, because it took Phil 2 fucking weeks to play the game, because he played it for one session for 3 hours, thought it were boring, and then didn't play it for another week, because he kept putting it off even though people wanted him to play it, because he didn't want to, he forgot how to turn the shield on and off. So he's trying to do a puzzle that involves messing with it, and he's not figuring it out very quickly, and then someone in the stream chat tells him that he can equip and unequip the shield. So he thanks the guy in the stream chat, something he barely ever does, he just generally takes credit for it and lies. And then he goes on a massive tirade about how the game is stupid for not telling him that that's how you use the shield. But he doesn't say it like that. He says the game never told him. Never told him how to unequip the shield. Not once. You know, you've not played a game in a week and a half. Should you really be relying on your hit and miss memory to make such a bold claim about a video game? I don't think you should. And it's one of those kind of statements that I avoid, because I don't know. And I don't care if I'm wrong. I care what's true. That's the most important thing for me in videos. And there are times when I say mistakes and people correct them, and it's 100% should be corrected because it's how it should be. Misinformation is the worst in my opinion. But when you're going to say that the game never told you how to do something, when at the very beginning, in video record, is you being told how to do it, maybe you would learn. You would think, right, that maybe he'd learn. He never learns. Ever. He'll never learn. I'm surprised he's got any of those qualifications, because his ability to ignore criticism and ignore any kind of abrasive wordplay sent his way is amazing. This dude is like an agent in the Matrix when you try and shoot him. He just fluffs it with self-delusion and self-deception. It's just, gone, I'm good, fuck off, I'm good, get a life. Like, every single part of it. And then the moments when he's real are not even real moments. They're the moments that you're not supposed to see. They're the moments where his friends call him out and tell him, I wrote this. Why are you saying you wrote it? And then he's going on about how he was just being really insecure. And at the end of the day, it's all ego, guys. It's all this illusion of importance that we get because we make these videos. Just because you make videos and some people like them doesn't mean you are any different to the people who watch your videos. Not even one bit. But we live in this time where there's so much celebrity worship and idol worship of random shit that it allows people like him, who have a proclivity towards delusions of grandeur, to think that they're somehow, in some way, doing something great. Like, he talks about his time on YouTube as a legacy. Can you think of CEOs who mention the word legacy as much as this motherfucker? And they run multi-million, billion-dollar companies. But they're not going to start talking legacies because they're too busy doing the work. But this motherfucker throws it around, and it was great yesterday. I've not watched him in a while because he's boring. Let's face it. I like watching him when he's angry, and a lot of the stuff he's playing at the moment is the absence of commentary. He calls it improvisational comedy. I've seen like plugs drain with more amusement than this motherfucker at times. Ooh, a doorway. Ooh, take your top off. Ooh, really funny, Phil. Keep it up with the great hits. He's like the comedian that has one stand-up and just repeats it for the last 10 years. And every time you see him live, he's saying the same shit, and everybody knows the gags. And it's like, dude, write another fucking set. That's who he is. He's relied on these same tactics for so long. It's hilarious. So, I'm in this stream, and I'm listening to good old Phil while I'm playing some God Hand, trying to warm up before I start doing some recording. And he's doing his usual pre-stream of, woe is me, my job is so hard, nobody has ever had a job as hard as mine, nobody has ever put in as many hours as me, nobody sacrificed as much as I have doing this incredibly difficult task of making video game videos and talking over them without editing any of it, and hitting a button to upload. But my god, does this man have a cross on his back of just sheer difficulty. It must be made of diorite or something. It must be sheer diamond he's dragging this thing around. It's just completely covered in barbs and thorns and nails and razors, and every single part of his body is cut and calloused and burnt and just, you can't imagine the pain, guys. It's the next level of just arduous suffering. He truly is a voice of a generation and a spokesman of perseverance and fortitude. I mean, I don't know what else I could really call him other than a complete delusional cunt. But he goes on this rant about the holiday season, and he mentions how people are working really hard and busting their balls and getting no holidays and all this, and you know what he's saying? Like, it started off kind of innocent. Maybe he's talking about people in retail who, it's Black Friday, it's near Christmas, it's always a cram, it's a nightmare if you've ever worked those jobs, it's really stressful, really hectic, everybody's like trying to kill each other for tellies and stuff. And then immediately he does what he does so beautifully, so often. He makes it about himself, but this is about as subtle as Darkside Phil will ever get. Because he starts off like, there's people who don't get to take holidays, who are busting their ass off, working long days, have goatees and wear beanies. He might as well have just completely personalised it to himself. Because what he's doing is he's bitching about his own situation while making it sound like he's moralising with everybody else. He's joining you. He's part of the workforce. He's suffering too. When really all he's saying is how hard he works and how much you should, respect how hard he works. And I'm sat here just thinking, dude, the people in your chat could do your job better than you do it, because you barely do it at this moment in time. You really don't do much that is even unique or directly specific to yourself. When you break him down and distill him to his base elements, he's essentially just a bootleg angry video game nerd who has no sense of self. There's no self-depreciation in him. There's no tongue-in-cheek. There's no getting the joke and rolling with it. There's no being the butt of the joke and appreciating that, it goes both ways. There's just infallibility and this kingdom of delusion. It's wonderful. And then he goes on to tell people that if they get a little bit extra for Christmas, that they should donate to him. So he's telling young people to give him his Christmas money. Why? Dude, is nothing fucking sacred? You don't know who your audience is. I always assume my audience is a bunch of grizzled 29-year-olds who are just as fucking twisted and bitter as I am. But they're not. Some of them are. But most of them are not. Some of them might be 15. Some of them could be 12. You don't know who your audience is. Some people can come across really mature, really intelligent. But you don't know their age. You're essentially telling children to give you their Christmas presents. Why? What a fucking scumbag. And then somebody on Twitter today or yesterday or something, I saw a screen cap of it earlier when I was setting up this video. And it took me so long to set this video up, guys. I mean, you have no idea how difficult it is. I was sweating. There was varicose veins coming out of my arms. I don't even know how I managed that, but they were there. I was getting chest palpitations. My eyes were all red. And I knew I had to left click twice. And then when it opened, I mean, I don't know how I survived, but I did. And you should probably give me money too, This is great. Look at Trico trying to kill me. Straight up trying to kill me. But somebody on Twitter says it's deplorable that you're asking for children to give you their Christmas money. And you know how I responded? Good old DSP, good old DS Positivity, the most professional man on YouTube. 8-year legacy, talks about legacy like he's a fucking Castlevania. Do you know what he said? I find it deplorable that idiots like you get to interact with other people on social media. That's his answer. He doesn't just ignore it, he doesn't just rise above it, he doesn't just go to say that, people can choose to spend their money how they want to spend their money because, it's theirs. If they think that my stream is worth it, then they can do what they want. No, you're a fucking idiot, you're stupid, I'm superior, you should be killed and culled. It's just wonderful, man. This is a human that exists and gets money for doing something that people would dream of doing. And he doesn't even appreciate it. Instead, he's incredibly abrasive, he's very quick to anger, and he's just completely delusional. It's magnificent. I can't imagine not seeing the flaws. It must be some form of autism. It really must. And I'm not somebody who throws that term around, because I think everybody's autistic. I think our characters, I think our prose, I think a lot of the things that make us interesting or funny or imaginative or good to be around are probably spectrums of autism. They're just mutations in who we are that have made us a little bit more weirder than others. And I think we look at a lot of that the wrong way. Some of it, completely different, but there's a reason why they call it high functioning and why there's all these modifiers and why we don't fully understand it. But to be that way, it has to be something in his brain, right? It must be. Because people say things like, it's an act, he's a character. And I would be 100% behind this, because if so, I think it's a brilliant performance. But my problem is, it never stops. And characters stop. And that's the thing. You can never be a character 100% of the time. You can't do it. There will always be a moment where it slips. And this is a dude who shared his entire life for the last 8 years. He takes pride in saying, no other YouTuber would tell you this. Do you know why no other YouTuber would tell us this, Phil? Because we don't want to fucking know. There's some stuff that you shouldn't know. That's the point. People come to you to have a good time, to be distracted from wars. They don't come to you to realise that the world is shit and everyone's going to die. They don't want to hear about your bills. They don't want to hear about your aches and pains and how you can't go to the doctors because Obama fucked you with Obamacare. all this ignorance that he's peddling. By the way, guys, the jumps that you're watching here, there is a chance that the boy will not grab these jumps. I have no idea why, but on my first playthrough, never fell once. When I was recording this guide, fell about 4 times because he did not grab. It's one of those archaic, vestigial moments of poor platforming that really should have been better. And I don't know why it does it, but if you get as unlucky as I did in that one recording session, it's enough to make you want to smash your teeth in. It's a horrible experience. But people wonder why I even bother with Darkside Phil, because he is a lost cause. I don't think you can salvage what he is. I don't think there is a salvage for that. It's too much work. It's too much conditioning that he's conditioned himself into believing. You know, it's like when House says if you could reason with religious people, there wouldn't be any religious people. And there's a lot of truth to that, because a lot of it stems from irrationality and just complete obedience. But that's what self-deception is. It's a state where you can't imagine being wrong. You can't imagine whatever it is that you hold dear to be wrong. And it's okay when it's not affecting other people, but this directly affects everything he does. And he's somebody who has a responsibility to an audience to at least seem like he cares. And he doesn't. And I don't know, man, maybe I'm the idiot for thinking or hoping that he'll change. But I just don't think he ever will, until it gets to the point where the money is just not there anymore. And then he'll do anything, it seems, to survive. He's the dude who's like, I'll suck a dick for $1. That's what he's getting like at the moment. Going back on his word, becoming a complete hypocrite, changing all of his moral standpoints just to persist like a virus that snorts like a pig.